Hi, I'm Kate.
And I'm Mandy, and this is Love Sober,
the podcast for the sober and sober curious.
Hi there, welcome back to Love Sober, the podcast for the sober and sober curious. And today it's Kate and I having a chat. We thought we'd talk a little bit about motherhood, and Mothering Sunday in the UK is this Sunday, so we thought it was kind of appropriate time, and also to talk about Love Yourself Sober, which was our first book. We can say that now because our second book is kind of, we finalized the back cover and the front cover and things like that today, so it's pretty exciting. But that's all around the kind of subject of motherhood and why we chose that subject, and why kind of the conversation around alcohol and being in caring roles and our experience of being mums was so sort of important, and also kind of to finish on what we've gained from being sober in terms of being mums. Just check in to start with. So hi Kate, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm all right, thank you. I think the sun is shining, and we've been speaking for quite length today already, haven't we?
Yeah.
So it's like
having deep and meaningful.
Yeah. So like I've been to voice coaching today, which is super exciting. Yeah. And we were just talking about, well, we got quite deep on that, didn't we? But yeah, in terms of sort of kind of professional development, but also a kind of personal development for me, because I've always worked with the voice of song, been a singer, but I do have that kind of anxiety around public speaking, which sounds ridiculous because like all we ever do is freaking talk. It's like we were ever shut up. But yeah, there's just a sort of another layer of that, and just decided to explore that, and it's been amazing actually. So yeah, I feel good. It feels like self-care. It really does. It feels like I don't want a talking therapy. I don't want to go to I don't want a coach at the moment. I don't really, but being in that therapeutic way of working with my body and my voice really was brilliant this morning, so so all good in the hood here. What about you?
Same. It's sunny here. I love how we always talk about the weather. It's definitely it's been lush this week. It's like 20 degrees, and that really helps me for sure. I'm good. Again, I've just started taking a shift in my own sort of personal development, that I have been seeing a therapist for about a year, which I decided that it was time to move on to something else, and switch over to coaching, which has just been brilliant, really kind of empowering and exciting to kind of actually sort of look to the future a bit, and on the kind of subject of motherhood. Like my daughter will be 16 this year, my son's 14, so it was a real kind of need or a real want just to start looking future focused a bit about how to do that transition and what I want in sort of personally, professionally. So it's quite exciting.
So we've both been kind of looking after ourselves, really, haven't we? And that is kind of almost takes me back full circle to where we kind of started, and what the idea in terms of working with women and working with ourselves, and what were the missing pieces for us in terms of that kind of looking after our mental, physical, emotional health, our and putting that self-care. And I think that's pretty amazing that we've both come together this morning, and you're like, what have you done? And I'm like, I saw a voice coach. What have you done? Got myself a coach. It's like, yay, walking the walk. Finally
well, I think yes, we might have hit a slight rock no circumstances of our own, but last year, not the year that will not be mentioned, the year that will not be spoke of. It's time for enough of that, isn't it? Enough. Move on to better times. And interestingly, we're doing quite a lot on our website at the moment, aren't we? And kind of what we want Love Sober, what the mission is really, and coming back to our kind of core values as a partnership. I put something in the group about the PERMA model this morning, which is Martin Seligman's positive psychology kind of framework for well-being. And that is one of the kind of founding principles that Love Sober is based upon, and remembering that as you said, we came into this searching for answers of we could get sober, but how did we stay sober and love sober, and what did we need in terms of not holistically, sustainably, the skills and the desires to sort of keep at it really, which part of that is that positive, its purpose, engagement, relationships, meaning and achievement, I believe.
My mind went blank then.
I think that's right. But anyway, blah blah blah.
And it's those I was talking to someone yesterday actually, and realizing that, again, going back to those core values of moving the conversation away from being broken, there being something fundamentally wrong with us, there being it being character defects and being powerless, to asking better questions, to saying, what's going on for you, how are you feeling, what do you want, what's not working for you, and looking at it holistically, and quite frankly looking at it sensibly. Not just accepting the norm and not just accepting what's gone before because it's the only model.
So I was just laughing and quite frankly
sensibly, but it is though, isn't it? It's like, we used to say, before we tried to clean up our act, we would be calling bullshit on things. And now it's like, quite frankly, we're just being sensible about it because we're trying to be really professional. But
I've got it in front of me. I did make a mistake. So PERMA is positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishment. And those are the kind of the things of underpin a lot of what we do and what we kind of want people to know, that sobriety kind of opens up the door to looking after yourself, and again sort of had that working with the intention of like, how can I best look after myself today, mind, body and soul, which is number one, not putting a toxic substance that wrecks my brain and my body and makes me feel shit about myself.
Exactly.
So Mothering Sunday, this is the sort of thing that because I'm not very, as you know, very good with any celebratory things. This is one of those things that passes me by, and then I get an angry phone call from my dad to remind me. You got any plans?
Well, I'm actually working because I'm doing the vision boarding workshop. Lovely vision boarding workshop, but I'd completely forgotten that it was Mothering Sunday when I booked it in, because, as you know, the things around all the diary thing is not my strong suit, and I honestly think that is the menopause. Like, it's got, definitely there is a real struggle in terms of looking at an online calendar and realizing the whole of my life and what needs to go where. So anyway, I did get a little bit of a shirty phone call from my mother. Well, are we meeting up? I got the tone. Do you know what I mean? Are we going to do anything? And I said to her, I'm really sorry, but my head's in work, because it was yesterday and I was flat out. I had lots of stuff going on. So I said, I can't talk right now. I will come back to you. I'm working. Which again, I was quite proud of myself, because, you know, I could have got really cross and gone moaned at her, which I sometimes do. But I was like, no, I just put a boundary in there. And then I checked my diary. And I also talked to my husband, and my lovely, well-meaning husband goes, well, you know, we could all come out together. We could all do something together, and it's entirely about what you want. And in my head, I just want to
be left alone. Yeah.
No, I just want it to be really simple, because it's the first time I've run this particular workshop, and I was like, okay, I really just want to. I kind of need to still be in my zone for that. So I said, yeah, I don't know. I might just sort of pop out and meet my mum for a bit. And he said, yeah, or we could all come. It's, you know, it's entirely up to you. I went round that a bit. And I just said, you know, I am hearing that. I don't know yet, and I'll let you know, you know. So I was clear about that. Anyway, so finally got something that would fit during the day. Going to Parham House, having a lovely coffee, going for a walk, looking at magnolia blossom. Got it sorted, can come home. And then I got a phone call from my mum going, I've been offered my COVID vaccination top up, so I can't meet you. So anyway, I'm free now, but I'm still doing a workshop. What about, but it's not for you.
It's not for me. Yeah. So, you know, like compassionate response, it's not the same date in France. So hence why I don't remember. So yeah, I don't have any plans. But yeah, if you're wondering what Kate's talking about with the workshop, she is running a vision boarding workshop. So if you are interested, the link will be on the bio, the notes. So if you should be able to still sign up. You can
still sign up. Yeah, we'll put the link on. That'll be nice. And it's vision boarding to create your sober self, looking positively into the future and engaging our creative processes to work with a different media, because often we talk, don't we, think ourselves into it. So we've got a few exercises just to get the creative juices flowing and to play with vision boarding.
Nice. So motherhood, alcohol, our book.
Yes.
I suppose, the question I suppose to start with is why is it such an important focus in our work and the book?
Yeah, I mean, it was fundamental, wasn't it? I think it's how we connected, and I think it was it was during that rite of passage into motherhood that it became very apparent that our individual lifestyles weren't sustainable, and alcohol really was impacting not only us but our people around us, or our whole families. And we'd entered into that stage of life where we couldn't feel like we were just those kind of kidults anymore. And there was that feeling of loss. There was such a lot of, we needed so much compassion, we needed support, we needed to ask better questions, and we needed strategies and community and connection, and actually we weren't getting that. We were getting a lot of messages around mummy wine time. We were trying to connect with mums groups, or trying to do it all. It was almost like we didn't know how to be a mum.
That next stage.
Wasn't it?
And I think like now our kind of understanding of it more from a professional point of view, in terms of how stressful that period of time is for women, and how vulnerable women are. And I hate using the word, because yes, we're strong, resilient, like women, like we're feminists, but actually, like, women are physiologically incredibly vulnerable at in early motherhood, certainly, because like trauma is a big word, but in terms of your stress and your nervous system, so much has changed. You might have had a difficult birth, you might have been trying, you might have had IVF, you might have had loss, you might be an older mum or a young mum, you might be a single mum. Like them, that having a child, the physiological changes in the body, the hormones, all of those things make us vulnerable to the effects of alcohol, and we are systematically targeted at that time to drink alcohol for stress relief. So yeah, sort of taking the lid off that and going, this is actually a real thing. You know, and certainly from my experience, I know that like having a child had an incredible like trauma response from my own past experiences, you know, that sent me into a complete tailspin in terms of my emotional regulation. I had a lot of rage, I had a lot of fear, I had a lot of worry, you know, like I'd given birth to something that was so precious and I loved so much, and I was utterly obsessed with how I could keep them safe and not have the same things happen to them that happened to me. I couldn't cope, and therefore alcohol became my friend in that coping strategy. You know, and in terms of kind of hypervigilance and not sleeping, you know, it was number one, you know, the thing that knocked me out to sleep when I couldn't sleep. So and I know I'm not the only one. And yes, sure. So I think that was part of the reason why, you know, we wanted to write a book specifically for mums. And we were talking about this earlier as well, that kind of narrative that self-care is selfish, you know, and that again kind of calling bullshit on this concept that, you know, to be a good mum you have to self-sacrifice. You know, to be a good mum you have to put everyone's needs before your own. And flipping that on its head and saying, you know, if you are not well, no, you can't help anyone else. So you looking after yourself is the opposite of selfish. You know.
And to pick up the point about, you know, the resilience, the strength of women, but the vulnerability of women, it reminded me of my chat on here with Irene Lyon, and her saying that it was, I think she was half Filipino, and she had gone back to the Philippines, and her husband, who is Canadian, had commented, and they were like, you know, they were in this bus and it was full of chickens and there was loads of noise and it's full of people and full of kids, and he said, I can't hear any children, like I never hear any children crying, I never hear any babies crying. And they got talking about this in terms of those bonds, community connections, and how important they were. And she said, I remember her saying, under no circumstances should any woman be sent home from a hospital on her own with a baby. It's like, as an animal, we are not wired for that. That is already trauma on the mother's nervous system, and therefore our attunement to our children is just like it's not right at the moment. And so this bit about, yes, we are really, really strong, but we're supposed to be doing it together. We're supposed to be connected, not alone. And that piece of that being so isolated, which so many of us are as new mums, is a really key piece. And alcohol marketing really speaks to that as well. It's that fear, that's disconnection, that loneliness, that being stuck at home, you know, a lot of that.
Yeah, you can only bond with me and you can only socialize with me and all of that. And I think that's really interesting, again, in our own experiences and, you know, experiences we've spoken to a lot of women about, in that sort of that suburbanization kind of, you know, the sense that a lot of women, you know, when they become, well, a lot of families, you know, move away from their support systems because of economics, you know, when they have kids, you know. So that was our experience, both of us. We were in places where we knew no one, you know, trying to make and attach new bonds to people socially, with a baby, you know, and that's something that is, in terms of, it's everywhere that, like, you know, people are doing that. It's very rare that people will stay. I mean, I had no desire to stay either, to recognize that. But the fact that, we are so isolated now in ways that we were never, sort of physiologically, as you say, as animals sort of meant to be.
It's that modern post-industrial society experience. It's almost like we're speaking from within the matrix. We've made choices, we've moved away from it, but we're still, all of our experiences have been framed by the matrix of of our modern post-industrial patriarchal worlds, basically. So it's no wonder that we have struggled, because essentially it's not supporting women through our life cycles. And I don't think we didn't know that, did we, when we decided to get sober, to first start a podcast, to write the book? Again, like you said, there has been that sort of professional shift and that intellectual understanding and processing, and I just feel so grateful once again to Lucy for setting up Soberistas, because again, that was that connection community, then us being able to piece our stuff together, connected, and part of why we wanted to set Love Sober up as well, to bring together that bit, and like you said, that self-care, the positive psychology. What do we actually want to create? What do we want our lives to look like?
It's like how much is alcohol taking me away from the life that I want to live and the person I want to be? It was so obvious to me, but I just couldn't get there. It's just that fundamental question. It's like, are you happy? Does alcohol take away more than it gives?
There's that thing, isn't there, in acceptance and commitment therapy. Such a good question to ask, and I think we do ask it a little bit in the book at the beginning, if I remember rightly. But I think we can get really caught up in all of this narrative around alcohol about, the old one, am I an alcoholic? What does this mean? Is this normal? Is that normal? And this question is not, is it true, but is this helpful? Does this help me? And that's a different question. And when we ask that, we know that actually, it doesn't matter what you want to label it. It doesn't matter what you want to call it. It's like, how is this? How are you experiencing this? But, to be honest, asking that question back 8 years ago felt, and before we found Soberistas, felt terrifying. It felt like asking it into an echo chamber, because there were no groups, there were no positive role models or connections, and for us to have, were there? So
no. And and it's also that thing of like, once you see it, you can't unsee it, and it's like, once you go sober, you can't go back. It's just like and oh God, I lost so many years trying to like moderate or drink or whatever, and it was just like, but I knew I could see things, and there was that disconnect, because like now when I was watching the BAFTAs, and it's like, how many of those people are sober, that it's just like, I know they don't drink either, and I sit there and I tell the kids they're sober as well, they're sober as well, it's like my little, like, and I because I'm proud of it, like I spot it all the time, but it's like the great unknowing before. It's just like, no one exists like me, and then you start to see it, and then you kind of put your picture together. I think I would have found that question, does this help me, quite challenging, because it was like, in the short term, but overall, no. And it was like, I think a lot of the work we do in that kind of sustainability with clients and on our courses and stuff is about you having that resilience and that overarching experience, that it doesn't, you've got something else in the toolkit, and you've got something else, that is a better tool, because it's like,
a better tool, exactly. And that's very interesting, isn't it? Because it's that what we've been using for X, Y, and Z, it's back to that. It's like, well, we need better coping strategies.
Yeah.
Or X, Y, and Z, not alcohol. Alcohol's been sold as the big coping strategy. It's no wonder we used it as the big coping strategy. However,
yeah, and you were saying we were going to talk a little bit about page 230.
Yeah. Well, I opened it. We were talking about what, it almost feels like when I look at it, and we called it our book baby, didn't we?
Yeah.
It's like when I look at it, I feel like somebody else wrote it. I have to say, it feels like another lifetime. Before last year, that is the year that should not be mentioned.
Yeah, the year that must not be named.
Oh my God. And and it was like there's the emotional toolkit and getting under the hood of why we might have thought it was helpful. And shall I read the list? Yeah, okay. So, and I just read this in lovely big bold text, which made it easier. To calm, when we are feeling agitated and want to calm down and get a boost of chill out hormones. So I used alcohol to try and calm down. So what can we do? Yoga, breath practice, butterfly hugs, walking in nature, swimming, knitting. I've forgotten this, using bitter orange in a perfume burner or an essential oil thing, Epsom salts, snuggling under a weighted blanket. And when I read, it's like, all of those things help calm you down. It's like, and how I would have just used alcohol to calm me down. That's like, that was the tool.
And the the irony that it does the opposite of calming you down, because it's also a stimulant.
So and then the next day all your brain chemicals are trying to redress the balance, so you're feeling much more anxious. So so that doesn't help. To change, when we're feeling sad or bad, we want to make ourselves feel better. Now that would be that kind of that goes with the to excite as well, which it's that lighting up the that ventral vagal bit of social engagement, isn't it? And those, now that I remember that a lot of the early days was just trying to calm, come out of fight, flight, just try and manage those triggers, and then going along. And I think this is why people hit those flat lines. It's like, right, I've done that, but I haven't then done that. How do I light myself up? So there's that dancing, laughing, connecting with others. I was speaking to someone this week about really turning to the moment and elevating whatever that moment is by adding, well, we've talked before, haven't we, sensory stacking. She was talking about going to Brighton, and I think it was going to Morocco's, the ice cream parlor on the seafront, and just thinking, I'll just pick an ice cream or whatever. And a friend going, oh my goodness, look at that color, that smell. And it occurred to her that she could engage in this in a totally different way with her senses, and I just thought that was beautiful. So that, I've been
having that experience with food.
Have you?
Because I've been doing the Whole30, and not at all in terms of a diet, but because I've had for years problems with my gut, and it just came to the right moment. I've always been attracted to that because one of their forbiddens is alcohol, so I kind of respect it in the sense that it doesn't just go, oh, try and drink a little bit less. It's like, you don't drink alcohol for 30 days, you don't no dairy, no sugar, and no grains, and no like pulses, but what the thing that I've lots of habit things that I've used around this. So I made myself accountable. Like, I asked my friends if I could just send them images, pictures of my food and stuff like that, which has given me really positive feedback, so I make it look nice, So I've got this blue bowl, and I've been having like lots of fruit in the morning. But one of the things that I've noticed now is that it's that kind of eat the rainbow thing, is that when my plate is too beige, I'm like, oh, there's something wrong here. So it's really like, it's a real sensory, like visual thing. I'm like, there's something wrong here, and I'm like, oh right, I'll whack some salad on, or I'll cook some green beans, or I'll cook some carrots or whatever. It's like I need more than two colors, 2 or 3 colors on the plate, and then I'm like, oh, okay, it feels like this is going to be sort of nutritious. which is really
that.
really interesting, because it's nothing more than an aesthetic that goes, oh yeah, there's a warning bell around this.
Yeah, but that goes to us, the fact that we are multi-sensory animals, so we are supposed to be, we're heavily visual, aren't we, as well? At the moment, a lot of our brain power goes into visual stuff, so that would feed into that, I guess. But that it would make sense, so that as an animal we know what to eat. they look palatable to us and satisfying.
Yeah, exactly. Not just like a like beige bread with beige, but that's it. And it but so that's and that has been a real learning for me recently, about how much my kind of visual is a really important sensory need for me, like color, how actually it's always been a thing, like like color being in my life, and not and being impacted by the blue sky and the green grass and yellow flowers, and just really like noticing that actually that can pep me up. That's one of the things that excites me, and for a really long time I was basically just wearing black and grey and navy blue, and now it's like, okay, I'm done with that.
How lovely that there are all those tools that and I think that the sensory toolkit is such a big part, and actually as mums, I think there's nothing that like makes you, well, in a way that I didn't like at the time, feel like an animal, as when I had just given birth and I was breastfeeding. I felt proper feral. But I think now, with what I know now, I might have enjoyed it a bit more, quite frankly, because it was actually those opportunities. Well, it was the reality of being very physical, very, and the kids are very sensory, aren't they? It's all about the senses, it's all about touch, it's all about engagement, those early bits. And then that, what you said really reminded me of the wonder of sobriety and having little kids, is when you have to, like, because they see everything afresh, they see everything for the first time. And I remember going, wow, dew on a spider's web in the morning. My son was just like, couldn't take his eyes off it. It was just like he'd just seen the crown jewels, like the richest diamonds in the world. And it made me look at everything again. And that is a real beautiful sort of gift of sobriety.
Catch those special moments. What's next on the list in the book?
What's next on the list? To comfort. When we're feeling sad or upset in any way, we want to comfort ourselves. So I know definitely.
I definitely used alcohol for that.
100%. Self-care first and foremost. We find having a good cry helps. So does human contact. Definitely. Form of hug or massage, eating nurturing foods with loved ones, performing random acts of kindness. So there's that sort of connection, common humanity thing. I often think with that, when we stress drink and emotionally drink when we're mums, it's almost about being efficient, like just trying to have the least impact on it, ironically the least impact on anyone else, do something in the quickest amount of time, because we are so time poor, drained of resources, so we're just trying to band-aid over it, aren't we, so we can crack on.
So true. And and I really remember, I'll never forget sort of having that conversation with one of the members of Love Sober about how being hungover was her rest time, and it was an efficient way to be able to be left alone and be able to stay in bed. And it just struck me as something so incredibly sad about that has been the way that we've come to try and get by. It's just like to ruin our system and our mental health and all the things, just so we can just actually rest.
And that choice element as well, it's almost like, I choose to put this in, I choose to rest. Yes, we need to rest, but that it's almost like the only time that you're given permission to is when you physically can't, like you're ill or you're hungover, and being hungover is being ill. It's literally being poisoned, isn't it? So it's like, how did we get to that point where we can only stop and rest? We're only allowed to, we only give ourselves permission to, and are given permission to, when we physically can't do something. And when you really start looking at it, I start to get quite cross again. I'm like,
again,
just
that brings
like,
up,
really, you're fucking having a joke.
And I guess the kind of the compassionate lens of that is that a lot of us feel like we are not worthy for whatever messaging or whatever's been underneath, is that we are not worthy of more. So it's kind of like when we put ourselves in those positions, we're confirming the narrative that we don't deserve more than what we've done to ourselves. It's that kind of so it's really kind of, and that's why, again, like self-compassion and self-love, which has got a bad rap, but it's got to start with us, is so key, because it's like you really going to keep confirming the lowest version of yourself, or are you going to just well,
it does start with us, and that self-compassion is such a key part of it, because we have to do the work to heal ourselves. And in doing that, that sounds quite heavy, but that self-love, and the self-care being a way into that, often the only thing that's available may be just, okay, well, I think I may be able to just give myself a bath. I might not be able to kind of do X, Y, and Z, or, even think that kindly of myself, but I can just pour myself a really nice bath and just lie in that. And those can start that muscle of self-kindness and self-compassion. And it is that sort of, on so many levels. You get me all yogi on this about ahimsa and non-harming, and it all starting with ourselves, but also from that nervous system level, we have to heal our nervous systems.
It's almost
to self-soothe, because otherwise
I was sort of thinking about, how can you approach that? Because it's like, well, if that's been the sort of the narrative, unconscious or conscious for and it was for us, right? So we're not speaking from non-experience, but that we were not, for whatever reason, worthy of being well. I think the thing that helped me, or something, is to try and think about is when you find yourself in that, it's that kind of transactional analysis, isn't it? It's like when you find yourself in that narrative, it's like identify who's speaking. Is it the critical parent? Is it your lost child? And being able to just sit there, hands on heart, and go, I am not there right now. I am an adult. And there was something so incredibly powerful when I realized that I was an adult and that I could choose, and that I didn't, I was no longer 19 and trying to keep up with my mates. I was no longer like a kid trying to, get approval from others. I was an adult. I was, when I first started trying to get sober, whatever, I don't even know how old I was, 34 or whatever, 33. It was just like, oh, actually, I don't even need to buy into that now.
Permission somehow, isn't there? It's permission.
It's like just to whatever, to take that power back, I suppose, from that voice, and go, actually, I'm an adult now. I don't need to.
I think for me, it felt like it was nearly having to come out of the mind. So identifying voices wasn't what I needed, but it was that feeling. There was something feeling here, and I was thinking about how when people say, I don't know how you know, that I don't feel like that. I don't know how to love myself. I don't know what that feels like. And that feeling of looking at my daughter or my son and just going, I know that feeling. That feeling feels like I'm going to take the bullet for you. I love you so, so much. Like, I'll just be there. I will stand in front of the storm, you know, like that's I love you. And then in that moment when you feel like that, you literally catch it and shove it back, shine it back at yourself and go, okay, because if you felt like that, you know what that feeling is. It's like you can feel like that, and then you can just go, okay, and try and just breathe it inwards. Just,
isn't that interesting how we approach things, the cerebral and the body up or my head down, you know. It's really interesting, but I love that. It's like, if you don't know what that feeling's like,
it could be a
really
pet,
like
right? Or it could be, but since we're talking about motherhood, that
I really like that. Thank you. I will take that on for myself.
Aww.
Is there anything else on the list, or is that
on the list? To release when we're experiencing extreme emotions such as anger, sadness, frustration, or elation. So that's being very activated. So doing some vigorous exercise, running, cardio.
I thought you said sex then. It made me laugh because
I literally didn't. No, that's so not happening.
That part of motherhood.
Done that. Going out in the sunshine, singing, shouting, writing, scribbling, upping the protein. And then there's to center when we feel out of control, stressed, or some of the things. Now that's a big thing, isn't it? Because of that feeling of overwhelm and feeling out of control and stressed. What are the things that you do now if you feel out of control and stressed? How do you center?
Well, I'm not always the best at this. This is still a work in process. So I certainly kind of count on trusted people to share awareness around that, like you and my husband and a couple of other friends that I'll kind of feel it out, you know. I'll advocate for my needs in the sense of I'm feeling really overwhelmed, like I'm not managing, and be able to kind of I suppose outing the beast helps me to be like, for people to feed back, okay, like, you know, what can you take off the list, what, you know, what have you said yes to? I mean, in practical sense, is that kind of planning and, you know, really looking at writing things down, you know, getting and like those sort of sense of achievement. So really like actually doing stuff. So like writing it all down and then starting with easy wins to feel like that momentum I can build to kind of get through things. But and also I suppose sensory, looking after my sensory needs in the terms of kind of using my headphones to kind of cut out noise, going and lying in the garden, sort of seeking out going in the bath. I think any of those kind of places where I can bring down the like rushing cortisol and all of that sort of stuff.
So it sounds like you're pretty good at that, actually, Mand. When you're saying, it's like, that's a pretty good toolkit. So there's that reaching out, isn't there? There's that actually, you know, asking for help in a way. Saying and naming it. It's like speaking the feelings, naming it, and saying, I feel like this, to somebody you trust. So there's that connection, which is very grounding.
And I think what's interesting about getting that list together, you know, so if you're listening to this and it's like, oh, I want to know why I drink, or, you know, so it's like you can use that list in the book to riff off, or there might be things that are for you, you know, like what are those triggers, or what are those emotions that I use alcohol as a coping strategy. And then you can start to build your toolkit. It's like, right, okay. And it starts with one thing. you know, and that, because it can feel really overwhelming. It's like, I have no idea how to manage any of this stuff. It's like, well, it starts with just one thing, and it might be going for a run, or, you know, for me it was going in the bath. That was my one thing. For you might have been yoga, I don't know.
Mine was just distraction. The first thing was just literally getting through those trigger times and the uphill struggle to bedtimes when my husband was working in London late, and the sober treats. So there was that feeling of a reward, and I deserve it, you know, I've been good, and just literally just watching TV and getting through those times.
Yeah, I used to be on Sobriety, didn't we, in those times as well, just like checking in, responding to people, writing, you know, commenting. And I mean, for me it was like Instagram for a while, which has its own problems. What was I going to say about that? No, it's gone out my head.
So, but you know, I suppose the takeaway message as well for mums is that, you know, I think we're both aware of that. The sort of it's a, you know, when we're mums, we do feel like there's that elevated sort of sense of responsibility and sort of shame, and we can be so hard on ourselves. And the last thing we need to feel like is that we need to be being told off, that we're not good enough, that we're doing something wrong, which is why the alcohol conversation is such a difficult one, and which is why it's so awful that we're marketed at like that, and why we've always said that self-care approach is by basically having permission to ask what we need, whether that be more childcare, more support, more rest, just whatever it is that we need to support us, you know. And that it's not that kind of moral judgment, which is so important.
That's what I was going to say. I think I might reintroduce sober treats on a more regular basis.
I
feel like I need.
Do you need some
more treats? But yeah, just that kind of, you know, I'd forgotten how protective I felt over my right to drink. You know, it was very, very strong that, like, I deserved it. It was my treat. I had this to do. You know, leave me the fuck alone. Like, this is the one thing that I have for myself. And I think, you know, that is very, very hard to untangle in the beginning. And I do think that sober treats are a very, very skillful tool in that of just like, you know what, you wonderful human that is doing so much for so many people absolutely deserve a treat. And these are all the other things that will help you and will be really nourish you and be kind to you, and you are allowed all of those. And so anyway, that just reminded me of that. So in terms of what has sobriety given to you, what are the gifts of sobriety that have given to you as a mum?
The being present, having energy, having that a really big part for me was that sort of peace of mind, that if I am needed, that I'm there, and that I'm present. So I think those are really, really big. And I think as my kids have got older, I think it's what's come out of that sort of personal development piece about healing my own stuff, you know, and being able to love on myself, you know, that self-love piece, that self-compassion piece, so that I can accompany my own feelings, I can be present, I can listen, and then I can soothe and I can allow them, which I didn't know how to do. So to be able to be with my children, and I still find it challenging sometimes, and if I'm knackered, I'm like, oh, why do I have to do this? But but and I often have to catch myself not going to analysis with them, but say, I'm sorry, that sounds really hard for you. So listen to how they're feeling, help them articulate how they're feeling. And when they go into the whole analysis mode, how does that make you feel? That must have been tough for you. I'm sorry that's been shitty today for you, sweetheart. So that, I think that connected up thing where I can be there for what they feel, actually.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and much the same, really. I think it's that emotional intelligence work. It's the emotional toolkit, and the understanding is the long-term gains, isn't it? It's that sense of like, actually, rest. Don't worry about it, just rest. Being empathetic rather than anything else. So it's just like that, being able, like, just being able to hold that, like, oh man, yeah, that sucked. Yeah, for you. Oh, that sounds really horrible. Yeah. Oh yeah, sorry, school's so hard. Yeah. Rather than trying to fix it, just leaving them to express their own emotions, and the whole range of emotions, and allowing that. And that's been a lot of work. It's like, it's okay to be angry, it's okay to be sad, it's none of these are bad. But it's about
sort of meeting, I think, sobriety, sorry I've interrupted you.
No,
but that sobriety allows me to meet myself where I'm at and meet the people that I love where they're at. I think that's probably it.
And I do think that thing of like, it's what I love is that, because I'm conscious, and it is a conscious practice, that I keep my sobriety very present in my life. And I do think that is something that you kind of, it's not like, oh, I'm thinking about it all the time, but there is that reflective practice of, like, something will happen and I'll be able to be like, I wouldn't have showed up in that way if I'd been drinking. And I just keep that kind of quite close by, like having,
wise.
And having a sort of chat over dinner, if they're just, not drinking at the dinner table, and actually just being fully sober to listen to their conversations, and and making sure we get home all right, and just the safety elements, and also giving them choice. It's just like they're growing up with a kind of sober, positive experience, which is, they're going to make their own choices around it, which is going to be awful. But at least it's like they have a reference point of what it is to not drink, and and open conversations around anxiety, and certainly that's something that shifted between my husband and I, that he has a deeper understanding around mental health and anxiety and those things, that he can spot in our kids where their vulnerabilities might be to alcohol, which just he had no idea before, because he had no reference point. So yeah, it's just, and I'm so much more fun. I am just a nicer person. I'm a nicer mum. I just am. I'm never hungover. I'm not so worried about things. I'm not like so trying to control things, like stuck in that like control, because I was trying to control booze, that everything else was in that kind of heightened state of control. I'm just like more, just laid back. I just don't really can laugh at myself in a way that I definitely couldn't before. It was just, everything had become incredibly serious. Unless I was pissed, which was really sad. So lots and lots of gifts, which is nice to reflect upon.
It's really nice to reflect upon, and I love what you said about that. And I think that that's something that I could mindfully bring in a little bit more, because you know what my rambling mind is like. Like, I'm very rambly. So bringing it back to structures and basics, and remembering that, reflecting gratefully and mindfully on what sobriety gives me throughout the day, I think it's a brilliant idea. Yeah. Yes, dude.
Okay, we better wrap up.
Yeah, I think we should. That's been nice, though. It's been nice to delve off into that topic, and it's nice for me. I'm enjoying, and I'll, we'll say this truthfully, hand on heart, to be able to hold this book and to look at the colourful cover and to feel really proud of that, And we'd have never written this, right? We'd never written this book if we hadn't got sober.
Yeah.
And it felt like a labour of love, and it was exactly the book that I think both of us needed to write and wanted to write, wasn't it? To speak to that piece that we're speaking to today. And it feels like a kind of a reflection today and a revisiting. But I remember when we wrote it, when we were talking about it, when we were living through it, that first cycle, it's like, this just has to have voice, because we just have to call bullshit and put the toolkit out there for other mums. Like, we wanted to send that raft out to other people. So feels
So what's your tip of the day and your reason to love sober?
Oh, I don't know. Tip of the day, I think, is what I'm going to do later on, is to get out in this sunshine today. It's beautiful. To explore the senses, to live in a sensory world and invite that awareness. And my reason to love sober is that I even think like that.
Yeah,
so rushing around and just not being present. What about you?
Tip of the day. This is actually something that a client said to me yesterday. I think it was the day. It was a realization that she had, which was, here it is. That now is not a transitional period. Because she's been back and forth, and that realization that now is not a transitional period. Like, now is when you make things happen, you make changes. It's like,
love that.
Yeah, it was
that's so powerful. That's like proper. The Dalai Lama would like to have said that.
Yeah, it does come from something. It comes from a book.
It does not come from the Dalai Lama.
No, I can't remember where it comes from, but it came from a book that she'd read, and then she read it in an article. Which, don't you just love that kind of divine intervention of just like being able to see that at the right moment, just to be like, oh, okay, So I love that. And reason to love sober. Just all the things. Just I don't drink anymore. It's really nice.
That's it. That's job done. There is to love sober is that I don't drink anymore.
Okay.
Right. So if you're immediately concerned about your drinking, just reach out, send up a flare, know that you're not alone. Check everything out at lovesober.com. Our book is on offer actually for the next few days. If you're listening to this before next week, there's some offer on it, so check that out.
It's $1.99, I believe, on Amazon. So go check it out. And just a little, please share, please tell your friends, please leave a
review if you like it.
We don't ever say stuff like that, do we, about the podcast or anything, but actually it would be anyway, move on.
It's part of the thing, isn't it, to help other people, to raise awareness and to just spread the good news in a way. That made me feel like I was back in 1983 in my evangelical church. So that's not a happy way to end, is it?
When it's that moment, it's just like, we should have ended this podcast 3 minutes ago. Anyway, look after yourselves, and we'll see you next week for more chat.